Hey, Jim Slick Audio. How's it going, guys? I want to talk to you a little bit about today track versioning versus just creating multiple tracks. So I'm going to have our camera guy point the camera over at the DAW screen. So I'm working in Cubase 8.5 Pro right now. Um, since that's a lot of you folks, I'm sure, are running that. Um, if you run Uendo, if you run Pro Tools, they all pretty much do the same thing. So point that way, point that way. So, screen you're looking at right now, this is one of the songs that I had recorded some time ago. Anywho, this is an example of where I've created multiple solos on the way out, which is a pretty commonplace for most idiot guitar players like myself. Lead players, will play something and say, oh, I can do that better, or geez, let me try something else. I didn't like the way this part turned out or that part turned out. And that's good. I mean, it's all part of the creative process. You never know when you're going to have a good track. So, with track versioning, what that means is, and Pro Tools pretty much uses this exclusively, but you could, in Pro Tools, just keep recording on tracks. I mean, here's the end of the day. I need to preface this first, and I'm going to bring it up again. You are limited to the number of simultaneous tracks that you can play back. Not necessarily record, but play back. So Pro Tools does limit you in certain versions, and they don't in others. In Cubase Uendo world, they don't limit you to anything. It's completely unlimited. It's whatever your machine can do. So you kind of get a little spoiled when you start running in that realm. So in any event, I'm yakking on here for a reason, because in track versioning, I am actually, for example, if I'm pointing to a track here, this is called F lead 2. This is actually a final lead, but final lead 2. So if I wanted to record another version and you're versioning, you literally just hit the record button again and you record over it, and it creates a second version, and I don't like that, and you hit record again and it creates a third version, and you can keep going ad nauseum, and then there's a little drop down up in the corner here that you can pick and choose one of those versions. So that's fine and dandy if you're going to use one version and everything was perfect. But in the case of guitar solo, or a lot of times, or for that matter, even if a bass player is running a part, I record my own bass tracks. So not that I'm a bass player by trade by any stretch, but I can hack through enough down here before I get the pro guys in to at least give them an idea what I'm looking for before I get a track out there. So the point being is, as I get long-winded here, sorry about that. I created, let me see, there's final lead 2, final lead 3, and then you see this final lead mixed, and then you'll see a copy of final lead. You're going to see a pile of leads. So basically what it was, my naming convention was terrible, by the way, but so ignore that. So instead of track versioning, I actually created separate tracks for each of these, and what I found was, and I'm going to expand these now so you can see the real dirty truth about what I did. You're going to see some fine white lines here. Chris, if you could zoom in a little bit on these parts, that would be wonderful. He's walking. He's walking. So what that is this is actually where I've taken these are our automation points, and they happen to be, if I unmute these tracks and put my read back on for these tracks and mute that track, you will see these now have just turned green, and it's an automation point. So what I have done was I liked up means mute is on, and down means mute is off. So I can tell via automation, this is the cool thing about DAWs, is we get to do this. and we couldn't do this back in the old analog world. It was, punch in, punch out kind of stuff, and hope you got it right, or you just ruined everything, and hope the guy punching did his job, or he just ruined everything, even if you did it perfect. So we have the beauty of running all these different versions today. So what I did here, just to give you an example, so notice this track right here is off. So it's this part is playing. And this was the third take that I had done. And then I got to a point where I was like, I either flubbed this up or I didn't like what was going on here. And you'll see then this section is unmuted. So for whatever this part was, I liked this part of that lead. And then there was a part here that I liked this lead. And then you get the general idea of what's going on. So, and then it ends up being this one here is unmuted for the end. So for the most part, the Final Lead 3 track was my main track, but I took a chunk of Final Lead, just Final Lead and Final Lead 2 that I liked better than what I'd cut in here. So, it wasn't the ultimate, so I had recorded that and then actually gave a Final Lead mix. So in other words, I did a mix down of these 3 tracks and created and printed a track, if you will, of this combination. And what it did more than anything was I didn't end up using that in the final, but it gave me an ability to just run over a couple of times, as a lead player, what I wanted to do for the, this track here, which was originally unmuted, F Lead 2, is actually basically the combination of these 3. But I had done it one take. So, I wasn't searching for ideas anymore. It was more concentrating on what needed to be played as opposed to, trying to capture that moment. And so I'd found the magical moments. I liked the Final Lead, the way it came out. And it's a pretty heavy lead, so we're going to play it for you here in just a second. And what I'll show you is we'll do a quick run through this chunk of where I had cut in and out between these tracks, and then I'm going to mute all that stuff out, and then I'm going to go and then I'll just play the one that I had taken and played from beginning to end. And so you can either listen to the music, hopefully, for the end, but the point is I'm trying to get you to see that I think there's more merit, more value added to having multiple tracks if you can afford it, and then using that as your stepping stone to either do a final track, perfected in one take like I had done here, or for that matter, you can leave it go as is. You don't have to do anything with it. You can leave them go, but it gives you more flexibility. So without any more ado, I'm going to move it forward here, and let's play a piece of that track. So you'll actually see the mutes cutting in and out over on this side, and then so here it is. Oh, would help if I turn the volume up, eh? So it was extremely seamless going across, this entire chunk. So if you're going to hear, you won't be able to hear. So if I take that back and let's say we solo it. That is, if I can see it to solo it. This is what happens when your eyes start to go bad, guys. Do computer work for a living. I'll do it every time. So I've soloed these 3 tracks out now, and see if you can hear. So you really couldn't hear any jumps or hesitations, pauses, whatever. So I was able to capture. I love that screech that I got out of the guitar just in that moment, and the killer is when I did my retake of it all, and replayed the whole thing from scratch. I didn't quite get the scream that I had gotten out of that, but nonetheless, it's not about the note, it's about the moment and the combination of everything. So let me get the automation back off in these. Notice how these turn white again now here. Cubase 101 stuff. And I'm going to unmute the final lead too, and I'll play that same general track. Matter of fact, let's solo that out so you can hear it. So that was basically the one taker that I had done and kind of learned after that. Yes, I like my like Neal Schon, I wanted this to be very wet at the end, so there's a ton of verb, cavernous verb, it's sitting at the end of this thing, and it fit the song. There's a reason why I wanted that done for the mood of the song, so no point in getting into that. But sometimes you don't want any, sometimes you want some. That's why you heard as much verb as you did. So we're going to play a little bit, an excerpt of this with the background track, and kind of fade it out at that point. But there's the general premise behind why you would or why you would not want to utilize multiple tracks as opposed to track versioning. But again, your call, whatever you like, man. So here you go. So, anywho, there you go. So I said we were going to fade out there. I lied. Sorry. So, peace out, man.